Sarah arrived at the tall, shiny building early every morning. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a warm glow over the streets. She took a deep breath, feeling a mix of hope and anxiety. Today would be another long day of work as a maid in the corporate world. As she walked through the revolving doors, the cool air from the air conditioning hit her. She smiled at the security guard, Mr. Jenkins, who nodded back. "Good morning, Sarah. Ready for another busy day?" he asked. "I sure am," she replied, trying to keep her spirits high. Mr. Jenkins had always been kind to her. He recognized her hard work and treated her with respect. The lobby of the building was impressive, with marble floors and high ceilings. Sarah loved how it sparkled, but she often felt small compared to the towering walls. She carried her cleaning supplies and uniform, which was neatly pressed. Sarah took pride in her appearance, always wanting to look her best, even when others looked down on her. As she made her way to the elevator, Sarah overheard a group of employees chatting nearby. They laughed loudly, their voices echoing in the lobby. Sarah recognized their laughter. They often joked about her and other cleaning staff, thinking their work was beneath them. "Can you believe they hired a maid to work in this building?" One woman scoffed. "What's next?" a gardener. Another added, and they all laughed. Sarah felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. She tried to ignore them and focused on her task. She knew she was just as important as anyone else in that building. She had dreams and ambitions, but she kept them hidden. After all, who would take a cleaning lady seriously? Once inside the elevator, Sarah pressed the button for the top floor. She took a deep breath and glanced at herself in the polished elevator walls. "I can do this," she whispered to herself. She was determined to make a difference, even if others didn't see her worth. When the elevator doors opened, Sarah stepped out into the hallway filled with bright offices. She walked past glass doors, peeking in at employees busy at their desks, typing away on their computers. She could hear the sounds of phones ringing and people chatting. It was a world of business and power, and Sarah felt like an outsider. She made her way to the supply closet first to gather her cleaning supplies. The closet was cramped, filled with mops, brooms, and buckets. Sarah grabbed what she needed and headed towards the first office on her list. It belonged to Mr. Thompson, the CEO. She felt a mix of fear and excitement. Mr. Thompson was known for being tough. He demanded perfection from everyone, and Sarah had heard stories about his temper. But she reminded herself that she was there to do her job, and she was good at it. As she opened the door to his office, she noticed the room was large and luxurious, filled with expensive furniture and artwork. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson," Sarah said, her voice steady. He looked up from his computer, his expression unreadable. "You're late," he said sharply. Sarah felt her heart sink, but quickly replied, "I'm here now, sir. I'll make sure your office is spotless." He waved her off, returning to his work. As Sarah began to clean, she overheard snippets of conversations from other offices. Some employees were discussing important meetings and big deals. She wished she could be part of those discussions, sharing her ideas and thoughts. But for now, she was just the maid, invisible to most. Hours passed, and Sarah worked diligently. She dusted, vacuumed, and polished everything until it shined. But as she moved from office to office, the same ridicule followed her. She could hear snickers behind closed doors, people making jokes about her job. It hurt, but she tried not to let it show. One of the employees, a young woman named Lisa, always seemed to find pleasure in mocking Sarah. "Look at her, cleaning like it's the most important job in the world," Lisa would say to her friends. "As if anyone cares about a dirty office." They would laugh, and Sarah would just keep her head down and continue working. When lunchtime came, Sarah took a break in the small kitchen area. She unwrapped her simple sandwich and took a sip of water. She overheard a group of employees talking about their weekend plans, completely ignoring her presence. It felt lonely, but Sarah reminded herself that she was strong. She had a purpose, and she would not let their negativity bring her down. As the day went on, Sarah kept her focus on her tasks. She knew she had a lot to accomplish, and she wanted to do it well. She cleaned every office and hallway with care, determined to leave her mark, no matter how small. When the workday finally ended, Sarah felt exhausted but proud. She had done her best, and that was what mattered. As she walked back to the elevator, she thought about how tomorrow might be different. Maybe she could find a way to show everyone her true worth. With a hopeful heart, Sarah stepped into the elevator, ready to face another day. She knew she was more than just a maid. She was a fighter, and she would not be overlooked forever. As the doors closed, she whispered to herself, "Tomorrow, I will make them see the daily struggles." The next morning, Sarah woke up with a sense of determination. She looked in the mirror and saw a woman who was strong and capable. "Today is a new day," she told herself, adjusting her uniform. After finishing her breakfast, she grabbed her cleaning supplies and headed out. As she arrived at the corporate building, the familiar sounds greeted her. The hum of conversations, the ringing of phones, and the faint clatter of keyboards. Sarah felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. She stepped inside and smiled at Mr. Jenkins, who greeted her with a friendly nod. "Good morning, Sarah. Ready for another busy day?" he asked. "Absolutely," she replied, taking a deep breath. The lobby was bustling with employees rushing to their offices. Sarah picked up her supplies and headed to the first floor. As she made her way through the crowd, she overheard snippets of conversations that made her heart sink. "Can you believe they let a cleaning lady work here?" One employee scoffed. "She probably doesn't even know how to clean properly," another added, and they all laughed. Despite the ridicule, Sarah focused on her work. She started with the break room, where the coffee machine always seemed to have a mess around it. As she cleaned, she thought about her life outside of work. She had dreams of going back to school to become a nurse. Helping people was her passion, but right now she was stuck in this job. When Sarah finished in the break room, she moved on to the nearby offices. Each time she entered a new space, she could feel the eyes of the employees on her. Some pretended to work while others whispered and snickered. Sarah felt small and invisible, but she refused to let their laughter break her spirit. She put on her best smile and did her job with pride. In one office, she encountered Lisa again, the young woman who always found pleasure in making fun of her. "Look who it is. The cleaning lady, hard at work," Lisa said, smirking. The others in the office laughed. Sarah clenched her fists, fighting back the anger and hurt. "I'm just doing my job," she replied calmly, trying to maintain her dignity. The day dragged on, and Sarah found herself feeling more exhausted than usual. She worked harder than anyone else, making sure every corner of the building was spotless. Yet it felt like no one noticed her efforts. When she passed by the break room during lunch, she could hear the employees talking about their plans and sharing jokes. It was like she didn't exist. At lunch, Sarah sat alone at a small table in the kitchen. She opened her simple lunch, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and took a bite. As she chewed, she watched the other employees laugh and share stories. Their joy felt distant, like a world she couldn't reach. She longed for companionship, for someone to see her for who she truly was. "Why do I even bother?" Sarah thought, feeling a wave of sadness wash over her. But just as she was about to lose hope, she remembered her dream of becoming a nurse. Helping others was her ultimate goal, and she wouldn't let the negativity of her current situation bring her down. After lunch, Sarah returned to work with renewed determination. She cleaned each office with extra care, hoping that one day someone would notice her hard work. As she dusted the shelves and wiped down desks, she envisioned her future. She imagined herself in scrubs, helping patients and making a difference in their lives. That vision kept her going. Throughout the afternoon, Sarah faced the usual snickers and sneers, but she remained focused. With every sweep of her mop and every scrub of her cloth, she felt her spirit strengthen. She refused to let anyone define her worth. She was more than just a maid. She was a person with dreams and aspirations. As the clock ticked closer to the end of the day, Sarah felt a mix of exhaustion and pride. She had completed all her tasks and made sure everything was in order. She glanced around the building, hoping that maybe someone would acknowledge her efforts. But as usual, she was met with indifference. When the workday finally ended, Sarah packed up her supplies and headed to the elevator. As she stood there, she thought about how she could change the narrative. What if I showed them I am capable of more? She pondered. What if I take a chance to prove myself? With a hopeful heart, Sarah stepped into the elevator, ready to face another day. She knew she had a long journey ahead, but she was determined to make her voice heard. Tomorrow, she promised herself, she would find a way to stand out, to show everyone that she was not just a cleaning lady, but a woman with dreams waiting to take flight. The challenge. The next day dawned bright and clear, filling Sarah with renewed determination. As she got ready for work, she felt a spark of hope. Today would be different. Today, she would take a stand. After finishing her breakfast, she dressed in her uniform, making sure it was neat and tidy. Looking in the mirror, she said to herself, "You are more than just a maid. You can do this." When she arrived at the corporate building, the usual hustle and bustle surrounded her. Mr. Jenkins greeted her warmly, and she felt a little more confident. "Good morning, Sarah. Ready for another busy day?" he asked. "Absolutely," she replied, her heart racing with anticipation. As she entered the lobby, she noticed the employees chatting and laughing, but this time she focused on her goals rather than their mockery. She picked up her cleaning supplies and made her way to the first office on her list. Today, she would show them that she was capable of more than they thought. Starting with the break room, Sarah worked quickly and efficiently. As she cleaned the tables and wiped down the countertops, she overheard a conversation between two employees. "Did you hear about the new project?" one said excitedly. "They're looking for someone to lead it." Sarah's ears perked up. Leading a project sounded important, and she wanted to be part of something bigger. After finishing in the break room, Sarah moved on to the nearby offices. She noticed Lisa and a few other employees huddled together, discussing something. They laughed, and Sarah felt a pang of jealousy. She wanted to be included in discussions like that, to share her ideas and thoughts. But today, she had a plan. As she entered Mr. Thompson's office, she could feel the tension in the air. He was on the phone, and she quickly got to work, cleaning and organizing his desk. While she worked, an idea formed in her mind. What if she approached him after she finished? What if she asked him about the project she overheard? Once she completed her tasks in the office, Sarah took a deep breath and knocked lightly on the door. Mr. Thompson looked up, slightly surprised. "Yes?" he asked, a hint of impatience in his voice. "Excuse me, sir. I overheard some employees talking about a new project, and I was wondering if I could be involved," Sarah said, her voice steady but her heart pounding. Mr. Thompson raised an eyebrow. "You? Involved in a project? You're a maid, Sarah." His words stung, but she stood her ground. "I know that, sir. But I am also a hard worker, and I have ideas that could help. I believe I could contribute." For a moment, silence hung in the air. Mr. Thompson looked at her, contemplating her request. Sarah felt exposed, standing in front of him, but she didn't back down. Finally, he sighed. "I'll think about it. Now, if you don't mind, I have a lot to do." Feeling both rejected and hopeful, Sarah left the office, her heart racing. At least she had taken a step forward. She decided that she wouldn't let his response discourage her. Today, she had been brave. As the day continued, Sarah worked harder than ever, pushing herself to excel. She moved from office to office, cleaning and organizing with a newfound energy. Each time she passed by Lisa and her friends, they exchanged glances, but this time, Sarah held her head high. She was determined to prove her worth, not just to them, but to herself. Around midday, while cleaning the conference room, she overheard a conversation that caught her attention. The employees were discussing their upcoming presentation and brainstorming ideas. Sarah's heart raced with excitement. She had always loved sharing her thoughts and ideas, and she knew she could contribute to the discussion. Gathering her courage, she stepped into the room. "Excuse me," she said, interrupting their conversation. The room fell silent, and all eyes turned to her. Lisa rolled her eyes, clearly annoyed at her interruption. "What do you want?" she asked dismissively. "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation about the presentation," Sarah said, her voice steady. "I have some ideas that might help you." Mr. Thompson, who had entered the room behind her, raised an eyebrow. "Go on, Sarah," he said, surprising everyone. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling a rush of adrenaline. "I believe that if you focus on the audience's needs and present clear solutions, it will make a big impact. I've noticed that people respond better to practical ideas rather than just statistics." The room was silent for a moment, and Sarah felt her heart pounding. Lisa's expression shifted from annoyance to disbelief. "What do you know about presentations?" she challenged. But before Sarah could respond, Mr. Thompson spoke. "I think it's great that you're sharing your thoughts, Sarah. Keep going." Encouraged by his support, Sarah continued. She spoke about engaging the audience, creating a story around the data, and presenting solutions clearly. As she talked, she could see a shift in the room. The employees exchanged glances, intrigued by her ideas. When she finished, Sarah felt a rush of relief and pride. Mr. Thompson nodded. "Thank you for your input, Sarah. I appreciate your perspective." The employees looked at her with a mix of surprise and respect. As Sarah left the conference room, she felt a wave of accomplishment wash over her. She had taken a risk and stepped out of her comfort zone. She knew that this was just the beginning. She had proven to herself that she could stand up and be heard. With her head held high, Sarah returned to her cleaning duties, her heart filled with hope. She was determined to keep pushing forward, to show everyone her true worth. Today, she had begun to change the narrative, and she wouldn't stop until she reached her dreams. Rising tensions. The following days brought a mix of excitement and unease for Sarah. She had spoken up in the conference room, and her ideas had caught the attention of Mr. Thompson. Despite the lingering laughter and mockery from some employees, she felt a newfound sense of purpose. Each morning, she woke up with determination, ready to take on the challenges that lay ahead. As Sarah arrived at work, she could feel the atmosphere shifting slightly. Whispers filled the hallways, and she noticed more employees looking her way, their expressions curious instead of mocking. It was a small change, but it gave her hope. Perhaps her boldness had made an impact after all. However, not everyone was pleased with her newfound confidence. Lisa, who had always been the one to mock her, felt threatened. She gathered her friends, and they huddled together, plotting how to undermine Sarah's efforts. "Who does she think she is?" Lisa said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Just because she had one good idea doesn't mean she can start acting like she belongs here." Sarah went about her work, oblivious to the brewing storm around her. She focused on her cleaning tasks, determined to prove herself through hard work. But as she cleaned the offices and common areas, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The atmosphere felt tense, and she could sense the resentment building among some employees. One afternoon, as Sarah was cleaning the main hallway, she overheard Lisa and her friends laughing and pointing at her. "Look at her, pretending to be part of the team," Lisa sneered. "She's just a maid. She'll never be anything more." Their words stung, but Sarah refused to let them get to her. Instead, she took a deep breath and reminded herself of her goals. She had come too far to turn back now. Later that day, Sarah was cleaning the executive offices when she spotted Mr. Thompson walking down the hallway. He seemed deep in thought, and Sarah took this opportunity to approach him again. "Excuse me, Mr. Thompson," she called out, her voice steady. He turned to her, a surprised expression on his face. "Yes, Sarah. What is it?" "I wanted to follow up on my ideas from last week's meeting. I've been thinking about ways to improve the presentation even further," she said, feeling the adrenaline surge through her. "Great. I'd love to hear what you have in mind," he replied, genuine interest lighting up his eyes. Sarah felt a rush of excitement. This was her chance to show him that she was more than just a maid. As they walked together, she shared her ideas about engaging the audience with interactive elements and storytelling. Mr. Thompson nodded, encouraging her to keep going. For a moment, she felt like she belonged, like her voice mattered. However, unbeknownst to Sarah, Lisa had been watching the whole interaction. Her jealousy boiled over as she witnessed Sarah gaining Mr. Thompson's attention. Lisa's mind raced with thoughts of revenge. "I have to show everyone that she doesn't belong here," she whispered to her friends. That evening, as Sarah was finishing her shift, she received a text from Mr. Thompson, asking her to meet him the following day. Excited and nervous, she wondered what he wanted to discuss. Maybe he was considering her for a more significant role in the upcoming project. The next morning, Sarah arrived early, her heart pounding with anticipation. She couldn't wait to share her ideas and prove herself even more. As she prepared for the meeting, she noticed Lisa and her friends lurking nearby, whispering and laughing. Sarah felt a pang of anxiety, but shook it off. She had to focus on the opportunity in front of her. When the meeting began, Sarah entered Mr. Thompson's office, and her heart raced. "Thank you for coming, Sarah. I wanted to talk to you about the presentation," he said, gesturing for her to sit down. "Your ideas were impressive, and I think you have a lot to offer." As they discussed the presentation, Sarah felt a sense of pride. She spoke confidently, sharing her vision and plans for the project. Mr. Thompson listened intently, nodding in agreement. She couldn't help but feel that she was finally being seen for who she was, a capable and intelligent woman. However, just as things seemed to be going well, Lisa burst into the office, a smug grin on her face. "Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Thompson," she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "But I thought you should know that Sarah isn't quite what she seems. You might want to be careful about trusting her ideas." Sarah's heart sank. She knew Lisa was trying to undermine her, and she had to fight back. "I am just trying to contribute, Lisa," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Contribute?" Lisa scoffed. "You're just a cleaning lady. What do you know about running a project?" The tension in the room thickened, and Sarah felt herself beginning to tremble. Mr. Thompson looked between the two women, concern etched on his face. "Sarah has been doing a fantastic job, Lisa. I appreciate her ideas and dedication," he said firmly. But Lisa was not finished. "Sure, but do we really want someone like her representing our team? She doesn't belong here." The words hung in the air like a heavy weight. Taking a deep breath, Sarah stood her ground. "I may be a cleaning lady, but I have ideas and ambition. I deserve to be heard just like everyone else. I'm here to help, not to harm," she declared, her voice rising in strength. The room fell silent as everyone processed her words. Mr. Thompson looked impressed, while Lisa's expression twisted with anger. "You think you can just walk in here and act like you're one of us?" she sneered. "I'm not trying to be one of you. I'm just trying to be myself," Sarah replied, her heart pounding. Mr. Thompson's voice broke through the tension. "Enough, Lisa. We will have a respectful discussion here. Sarah, I appreciate your passion. Let's focus on moving forward with the project." With that, Lisa stormed out, her anger palpable. Sarah felt a mix of relief and fear. She had stood up for herself, but the battle was far from over. The tension between them was real, and she knew Lisa would not let this go easily. As the day continued, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the challenges ahead would be greater than she had imagined. But one thing was clear: she was ready to fight for her place and show everyone that she was more than just a maid. She was a woman with dreams, and she would not be silenced. The unveiling. As the days passed, Sarah's resolve grew stronger. She knew that the confrontation with Lisa was just the beginning. The more she proved herself, the more Lisa seemed determined to tear her down. But Sarah had a plan. She wanted to show everyone that she was not only capable but also invaluable to the team. With the presentation date approaching, Sarah threw herself into her work. She researched tirelessly, preparing not only her ideas, but also examples and visual aids to present to the board. Mr. Thompson often checked in with her, expressing encouragement and enthusiasm for her efforts. This only fueled Sarah's fire. She wanted to make him proud. However, Lisa was relentless. She began to spread rumors about Sarah, telling anyone who would listen that Sarah was unqualified and that her ideas were foolish. She thinks she can just waltz in here and make big changes, Lisa would say, a smirk on her face. Just because Mr. Thompson is giving her attention doesn't mean she knows what she's doing. Despite the rumors, Sarah kept her focus on the upcoming presentation. Each evening, she would work late, perfecting her slides and practicing her speech in front of the mirror. She imagined herself standing in front of the board, confident and assertive, ready to showcase her hard work. The day of the presentation finally arrived, and Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. She wore a simple but professional outfit, hoping it would help her appear more authoritative. As she made her way to the conference room, she noticed Lisa watching her from a distance, arms crossed and a scowl on her face. "Good luck, Maid," Lisa called out, her voice laced with mockery. "You'll need it." Sarah took a deep breath, refusing to let Lisa's words shake her. She had come too far to let anyone intimidate her now. Entering the conference room, she found Mr. Thompson waiting for her, a reassuring smile on his face. "Are you ready, Sarah?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with confidence in her abilities. "Yes, I am," she replied, her heart racing with anticipation. As Sarah began her presentation, she noticed some of the board members looking skeptical. But as she spoke, explaining her ideas with clarity and enthusiasm, she saw their expressions begin to change. Her passion was infectious. She used visuals that illustrated her points, making complex ideas easy to understand. "Imagine if we could engage our clients more personally," she said, her voice strong and clear. "By implementing interactive elements, we can transform our approach and build stronger relationships." With each slide, she felt more empowered. Mr. Thompson nodded along, clearly impressed. As she concluded her presentation, the room erupted in applause. For a moment, Sarah felt like she was floating. "Fantastic job, Sarah," Mr. Thompson praised, standing up to shake her hand. "Your ideas are exactly what we need. I can't wait to get started on this project." Just then, Lisa burst into the room, her face flushed with anger. "What's going on in here?" she demanded, eyeing Sarah with disdain. "Did you really think you could impress them with your little presentation?" Sarah's heart sank for a moment, but she reminded herself that she had done well. "I did my best, and it was well received," she replied confidently. Lisa scoffed, crossing her arms defiantly. "You may have impressed Mr. Thompson, but we all know you're just a cleaning lady. You don't belong here." The board members exchanged glances, some looking uncomfortable. Mr. Thompson stepped forward, his expression serious. "That's enough, Lisa. Sarah's ideas are valuable, and she has every right to be here. Your attitude is unacceptable." Lisa's face turned red with rage, but she quickly masked it with a sly smile. "Oh, I'm just looking out for the company, Mr. Thompson. Can we really trust someone like her to handle important tasks?" Before Sarah could respond, Mr. Thompson continued, "We need fresh perspectives, and Sarah is bringing that to the table. You might want to consider supporting your coworkers instead of undermining them." The tension in the room was palpable as Lisa glared at Sarah. "This isn't over," she hissed before storming out, leaving a charged silence behind. As the meeting wrapped up, Sarah felt a mix of relief and triumph. She had stood up for herself, and Mr. Thompson had supported her. This was a huge step forward, but she knew the battle with Lisa was far from finished. Over the next few weeks, Sarah continued to work hard and focus on her projects. With Mr. Thompson's encouragement, she began collaborating with other departments, sharing her ideas, and gaining more recognition within the company. The more she contributed, the more she felt like she belonged. However, Lisa continued to stir trouble behind the scenes. She would drop subtle hints to other employees, trying to sow doubt about Sarah's qualifications. "Do you really think she knows what she's talking about?" Lisa would say. "Just wait until the real work begins. She'll crash and burn." Despite the whispers, Sarah's determination only grew stronger. She had a purpose now, and she wouldn't let anyone take it away from her. Each morning, she woke up with renewed focus, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the project moved forward, Sarah and Mr. Thompson developed a solid working relationship. They spent hours discussing strategies and refining ideas, and she felt grateful for his mentorship. He often praised her efforts, which boosted her confidence even more. But deep down, Sarah knew that Lisa's jealousy was still lurking. The tension was building, and she could feel it in the air. It was only a matter of time before Lisa would make another attempt to undermine her. Little did Sarah know, the moment of confrontation was approaching quickly, and it would test her resolve like never before. The showdown. As weeks passed, Sarah's reputation in the company continued to grow. Her innovative ideas and dedication caught the attention of not only Mr. Thompson, but also other executives. They began inviting her to meetings, and she started contributing to discussions that she once only dreamed of participating in. However, amidst this rise, the tension between Sarah and Lisa became more palpable. One afternoon, as Sarah was preparing for a crucial meeting with the executive team, she noticed Lisa lurking outside her office. Lisa's eyes burned with resentment, and Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of her progress and how far she had come. No matter what Lisa said or did, Sarah was determined to rise above it. The meeting was scheduled to present Sarah's project to the executive team. Mr. Thompson had been supportive and encouraged her to be bold with her ideas. "This is your moment, Sarah. Show them what you're made of," he said, his words filling her with confidence. As Sarah entered the conference room, she felt the eyes of the executives on her. They were curious and a bit skeptical, but she was ready to prove herself. She started her presentation, speaking clearly and passionately about her vision for the company. She highlighted how her ideas could enhance client relationships and improve the overall success of the business. Just as she began to gain momentum, the door swung open, and Lisa burst into the room. "Sorry I'm late. I couldn't miss this," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. The executives looked surprised, and Sarah felt her heart race. "Lisa, this is a serious meeting," Mr. Thompson said, his tone firm. "We need to focus on Sarah's presentation." "Oh, I know," Lisa replied, smirking. "But I just couldn't let you present those ridiculous ideas without offering some real insight. Isn't that right, everyone?" She turned to the executives, her expression cocky. Ignoring Lisa's attempt to rattle her, Sarah continued her presentation, determined not to let her distract her. She could feel the tension in the room, but she pressed on. As she spoke, she noticed some executives nodding along, clearly impressed. Lisa, sensing the shift, decided to interrupt again. "Sarah, don't you think your ideas are a bit unrealistic? We're a professional company, not some charity. Who do you think is going to take these suggestions seriously?" Sarah felt anger bubbling inside her, but she took a deep breath. "I believe our clients will appreciate fresh ideas, Lisa. Innovation is what keeps us competitive in the market," she replied, her voice steady. The executives exchanged glances, some looking annoyed with Lisa's interruptions. Mr. Thompson stepped in, clearly frustrated. "Lisa, this is not the time for your negativity. Sarah is presenting valuable insights that could change the company's future." But Lisa was relentless. "Change, is that what we call it? More like chaos. What do you really know about running a business, Sarah? You're just a cleaning lady," she spat, her eyes narrowing. The room fell silent. Sarah felt the weight of Lisa's words, but she refused to let them define her. She took a moment to gather her thoughts. "Actually, Lisa, I understand hard work and dedication. I faced challenges that have taught me how to adapt and innovate. That's why my ideas are grounded in real-world experience," she said, her voice rising slightly with confidence. The executives looked impressed, and Mr. Thompson nodded in agreement. Exactly, Sarah. Your background gives you a unique perspective. We need to embrace that. Lisa's expression darkened. She couldn't believe that Sarah was standing her ground. You think you can just waltz in here and pretend to be one of us? She shot back. You don't belong in this room. In that moment, Sarah knew she had to respond firmly. I may not have a traditional background, but I have valuable insights that can help this company grow. I've earned my place here, and I'm not going anywhere, she declared, her voice steady. The tension in the room crackled as the executives watched the exchange unfold. Lisa's face flushed with anger, but Sarah stood tall, refusing to back down. Suddenly, one of the senior executives, a stern woman named Ms. Henderson, spoke up. Lisa, we have always valued diversity and different perspectives here. Sarah deserves respect, just like anyone else in this room. You need to reconsider your approach. Lisa scoffed, but the tension shifted as the room rallied behind Sarah. She felt a surge of strength and support, realizing that she was no longer alone. Mr. Thompson took a step forward, a firm expression on his face. I won't tolerate this kind of behavior in my team. We're here to support one another and grow together. Lisa, if you can't be constructive, I suggest you step out. With those words, Lisa's facade cracked. She looked around the room, seeing the disapproval in the eyes of her colleagues. With a huff, she stormed out, leaving an air of silence behind her. As the meeting resumed, Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. She finished her presentation with renewed confidence, and the executives responded positively, excited about the potential of her ideas. Afterward, Mr. Thompson congratulated her. You handled that beautifully, Sarah. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. Sarah smiled, feeling the weight of the confrontation lift. She had faced her fears and emerged stronger. She knew that her journey was far from over, but with each step, she was building a future where she truly belonged. As she left the conference room, Sarah felt a sense of accomplishment. She had proven herself to not only the executives but also to herself. This was just the beginning, and she was ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. The triumph. In the weeks that followed, Sarah's life transformed dramatically. After standing up to Lisa, she had earned the respect of her colleagues and the executives. They viewed her not just as the cleaning lady, but as a vital part of the company's future. Her innovative ideas were beginning to take shape, and she was invited to collaborate with teams on various projects. One afternoon, while working on a project that focused on enhancing client communication, Sarah received an unexpected email. It was from the CEO himself, Mr. Thompson. He wanted to meet with her to discuss her ideas and how they could be implemented across the company. Sarah's heart raced with excitement. This was the opportunity she had always dreamed of. When the day of the meeting arrived, Sarah prepared thoroughly. She gathered her notes, made a presentation, and practiced her speech over and over. As she entered Mr. Thompson's office, she felt a mix of nerves and anticipation. The room was large and filled with bookshelves, certificates, and a large window that overlooked the city. Sarah, please have a seat, Mr. Thompson said warmly, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. He had a friendly demeanor, and Sarah felt slightly more at ease. Thank you for meeting with me, sir, she replied, her voice steady despite her nerves. I've been following your progress, he began, leaning back in his chair. Your presentation in the executive meeting was impressive. You showed great courage and poise when dealing with Lisa. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate your support, Sarah said, her heart swelling with pride. Mr. Thompson nodded, his expression serious. I believe you have the potential to contribute significantly to our company. I'd like to discuss implementing your ideas on a larger scale. I think they could really change how we interact with our clients. Sarah's excitement bubbled to the surface. Really? That would be amazing. I've been thinking about how we could enhance our services and make them more personal. Exactly, he replied, leaning forward. Let's talk about your vision and how we can make it a reality. I want to hear everything you have planned. As Sarah presented her ideas, she felt more confident than ever. She spoke passionately about improving communication, fostering client relationships, and using technology to make services more accessible. Mr. Thompson listened intently, nodding and taking notes. "This is brilliant," he said after she finished. "I see real potential here, and I want to give you the resources to develop it further. Let's start a pilot program based on your concepts and see how it works." Sarah could hardly believe what she was hearing. "Thank you so much, sir. I won't let you down." With that meeting, Sarah's career began to soar. She was appointed to lead the pilot program, working closely with different teams to implement her ideas. Every day brought new challenges, but she thrived under the pressure. The executives who once looked down on her were now seeking her insights, and she felt a sense of belonging she had never experienced before. However, Lisa was not done yet. Despite being reprimanded, she remained bitter about Sarah's success. One day, while Sarah was presenting updates on her project to a group of executives, Lisa decided to interrupt. "Isn't it a bit much for someone who just cleans toilets to lead such an important project?" She sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. The room fell silent, and Sarah felt a familiar knot tighten in her stomach, but she took a deep breath and smiled. "I may have started as a cleaner, but I've worked hard and learned a lot. My background gives me a unique perspective on our clients' needs." The executives exchanged glances, some looking disapproving of Lisa's comments. Mr. Thompson's eyes narrowed, and he spoke firmly. "We're all here to support each other, Lisa. Sarah has shown incredible talent, and I expect everyone to treat her with respect." Realizing she was losing the support of her colleagues, Lisa fell silent, and Sarah continued her presentation, this time with even more confidence. Days turned into weeks, and the pilot program launched successfully. Clients responded positively, and Sarah's ideas were transforming the company. She received praise from Mr. Thompson and the board for her innovative approach, and the program exceeded all expectations. As the program gained momentum, Sarah received an invitation to speak at a company-wide meeting. This was her chance to share her journey and inspire others. On the day of the meeting, Sarah stood in front of a large audience, her heart racing with anticipation. "Thank you all for being here. I want to share my story with you, a story about resilience and believing in yourself." She spoke about her challenges and how she overcame them, emphasizing the importance of hard work and determination. She urged everyone to embrace diversity and support one another, no matter their background. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Tears of joy filled her eyes as she realized how far she had come. The same executives who once overlooked her now celebrated her as a key contributor to the company's success. After the meeting, Mr. Thompson approached her, a proud smile on his face. "You did wonderfully, Sarah. You've inspired so many with your story." "Thank you, sir. I couldn't have done it without your support," she replied, feeling a wave of gratitude. As Sarah walked out of the building that day, she couldn't help but smile. She had faced her fears, stood up against adversity, and proven that anyone could rise above their circumstances. Her journey was far from over, but she was ready to embrace whatever came next. Sarah knew that she was not just a cleaning lady anymore. She was a leader, an innovator, and a source of inspiration for everyone around her. With her head held high and a heart full of hope, she was ready to conquer the world.